Hey everybody, Nate from Octave Studios here. I hope you have all had a great week and you've all been very productive in whatever it is you've been working on. It's Thursday and that means it's time for a new tips and tricks video. This one we're going to talk about preparing for your release. You've hit the studio, probably recorded a song, or you've played a few shows, or you've done both. And now you want to move forward. You want to release the song, you want to go out play more shows, maybe start getting paid for these shows. But there's a few things you need to think about first. And two of them are things that most bands usually get rather excited for, and one is something that actually goes hand in hand with both of them and is very important in helping you make sure you make the right decisions for those two. So without further ado, let's talk about preparing for your release. Alright, so you've probably gone and played a few shows at this point, and more than likely hit the studio and recorded a song, an EP, or an LP. And now you're thinking, okay, we need to get our music out there, and we kind of need to start playing some shows out of town maybe, or we need to start getting at least paid at these local shows if you aren't already. Sometimes that unfortunately happens. What you need to then start thinking about is not just what your band is, but what your brand is. Now, they go hand in hand. You really got to think about, like, what is it you're about as a group? What kind of energy do you give off? What kind of music do you play? Really try to think about a few things. This will come into play for photography, because when it comes to photography and playing as a band, you want to look like you belong together. The worst thing for an up-and-coming band is to look like a band of misfits that don't even belong with each other. A band of misfits is one thing, but a band of misfits that are misfits is just a little too much, and some people can't really connect with that. So you want to make sure that you all look like you belong with each other, but also try to stay away from tropes. If you're a thrash band, maybe the denim vest and the bullets for everyone isn't necessary, because how are you going to stand out? That's the other thing you got to think about when it comes down to this. You don't have to be intricate or really invest into it. You just got to think about, like, how do we want to present ourselves? What kind of energy do we want to give off? And this will come across not just in your photography or your live show, but most importantly, your music. And people will be able to, through your brand, connect the three together as one. So the two things we want to cover are your logo and photography. Now let's go with the logo first. If you already have your logo, that's great. You're a step ahead of the curve. All you need to do now is ask yourself, does it fit with the brand we are trying to create? If it does, great, you can move on to photography. If you don't, now you got to ask yourself, what are we about? Again, going back to that kind of energy and brand that you want to create. What are the things that your band is about? What do you want to convey with your logo? Keep it simple. Something intricate will be too much for people to understand, but if you can create something simple that reflects what you're about, you're set. If you have someone in the band that's an artist, oh, even better. You can have them do it up, or you can all make up ideas and then find someone. If you're still struggling, maybe ask a local artist that you know to come and watch you play, watch you rehearse, whatever, and talk to you about what you guys are about. Explain to them all those things that I've been asking you to figure out for yourself. And then from there, maybe they'll come up with an idea that will work. You just want to make sure that it represents you and your band and your brand. Now, going into photography, it's the same thing. Now we're going into like the apparel thing and all this shit. The main thing that matters, just look like you belong. Just look like you belong together, more importantly, as a group. Just make sure that you kind of convey what you want to convey and try to do something unique. If there are a bunch of local bands and they hit the same spots, try to find a different spot maybe that you think is a bit better and a bit nicer, or conveys the image a bit more. Fuck around with lighting. You can do a lot with lighting. I'm still figuring that out myself. We're all learning on a regular basis, but really try to think, where can we go? And do not be afraid to put some money aside and hire a professional photographer. This will save you leaps and bounds when it comes down to just making sure you look good when you are promoting yourself online. These images will help you drastically when it comes into future videos when we talk about your electronic press kit and trying to get yourself out there. Your brand represents your band, and you need to be able to deliver on all fronts. You need to deliver on the music end, on the merchandise end, which will only come from understanding what your brand is and what your fan base is, and just everything else that comes down to promoting your band outside of just your music. There are 4 different bands that I've come across over the past few years that I feel have this down in different ways. There are bands like Bleed from Edmonton, Alberta, that I may not have seen in the past 4 or 5 years, but they were still extremely memorable down to how they presented themselves down with their music, their CD packaging, their promotion work, their photography, their merchandise, and their stage show. It really felt like Bleed was a act to watch. It was entertaining. It was very kind of theatrical, and it suited them. They all brought it off in a way that seemed organic, and it was a really memorable show. And that's something that you want to try to aim for. Not so much hitting all those things I just mentioned, but making sure that you connect with whatever it is that you're trying to put out. Shark Infested Daughters is a band that I feel has the team kind of look down. They have a uniform. They look like they belong together on stage. And that helps you identify, or helps some people identify with them and pick them out. There's Dusty Tucker from Red Deer, Alberta. They just play like a weird, like awesome conglomeration of everything, yet they look like a bunch of dudes that belong together playing that style of music. It's nothing intricate. It's really just the clothes they wear. They don't even probably coordinate it that much. They just hang out with each other enough to really dress a certain way. And again, that makes them look like they belong together. Or if you want to get really extreme into it, there's Two Shadows from Vancouver, British Columbia. And these guys go full out with what they do. They got like some of the face paint, they do their hair up. They go into this really cool thing where they create these characters to bring on stage, and it works really well with their show. They've even added some elements to a stage show that really helps them stand out, and they keep it in their photography. They keep it in their logo. They keep it in everything they do to present themselves, and you can even hear it in their music. Like the themes that they present are apparent in their music and their image and their brand and their logo. So if you can do all these things, you can stand out amongst all the bands that you see and that you play with, and you can really make an impact as a new band. If you put the thought into getting all this together before a release and slowly putting out like band photography and working on your logo, making sure it reflects the release that you're about to put out, and making sure your band is starting to look and act like a band together outside of the jam space. If you can do all that, your release will do so much better because you will be able to generate some more awareness for your act as a group, especially if you're active and trying to get out there and maybe play in areas that you haven't played before. So that'll all tie us into stuff like digital distribution, EPKs, and getting ready to really get your music out there past just like the pre-planning stages of everything that goes before it. But that is for future videos. I hope you have all taken something away from this. I'm looking forward to diving a bit more into this, and I'm probably going to dive a bit deeper into other topics I've already addressed in the previous videos and just kind of nitpick and dive even further, because I do feel like there is a lot I could say about certain things I've maybe breezed over. But with that, I would love to hear your opinions on what I should address and talk about. I'm still trying to figure out this format out, figure out what it is I can talk about, but in the end, I'm just trying to help give out advice so that all of you that are either starting out or all of you that have already been at this and have been doing music for years just can go about your music and play in your bands with a bit less stress, because we all overlook a lot of this And then when it all comes on us at once, it gets really stressful, really expensive sometimes, and it just turns this thing that should just be fun into more than just work. It makes it feel like work with no return. And this should be fun that you have to do a little work with, not work that gives you a little bit of fun and just makes you dread it. So with that, I hope you all have a great week. Leave comments below with suggestions on what you think I should talk about or dive further into. And I'll see you all next week. Take care.